You're listening to DisasterClass podcast by Instinct Ready Emergency Management. The sun's out, the weather is nice, but that means so is the sun and the bugs. Don't go anywhere without having your Sawyer bug spray and sunscreen. Keeps you safe, keeps you outdoors. Visit Sawyer.com to find a retailer near you. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of DisasterClass, the podcast that's dedicated to helping you educate, prepare, and equip yourself for life's disruptions. I'm Jason Perez.
And I am Wesley Long.
And Wesley.
Yes. Class is now in session.
Class is in session.
Let's go.
So, yeah, it's a good day.
Yeah.
It's getting a little warmer out.
Mm-hmm.
How's things over by you?
Our unique New York is rainy right now.
Rainy.
It's a little rainy, but it's all good. I'd rather that than snow. So it's warming up. So we're winning.
Moving into the warmer months.
Yeah, not complaining at all.
So, Wesley, you recently attended a community event in New York City.
Yeah, New York City Emergency Management.
Ooh, you got your little NYCEM bag
a little
there.
Swag bag. Yeah.
NYCEM Community Preparedness.
Yeah, and a sanitizer. Yep.
And well, we got to keep those hands clean.
Got to keep it clean.
So, this was the annual Community Preparedness Symposium. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. If I remember correctly, I think they've done it 12 or 13 years in a row. And really, really great event. They've got a really great venue space at Baruch College down in Manhattan. I think they mentioned this year might be the last year they're there because they're just outgrowing the space. There's just there was a big vibe for this. And I guess I was very fortunate. I didn't plan on it. Like, I was doing some research, looking at some of their content because they put out really good content as an organization. I just happen to think they're one of the best Office of Emergency Management in the country, to be honest. So I love just checking out their space, seeing what they're doing. They got some really solid folks that work in that organization that really are trying to help people as best they can. And I was looking at some other content, and I came across, I think, some video recording from a symposium from a few years ago. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Let me take a look. What is this thing? And I was like, oh, man, I wonder, is that thing still going? And I found it, and there wasn't any availability yet to purchase for 2025. So I don't remember if I signed up in the newsletter or I just made it a point to keep checking back or something. But somehow I found out that it was available and the ticket was free. So I went and signed up. And then at the event, they mentioned the tickets were only on sale for 6 or 7 days because they sold out so quickly. I just got super, super fortunate to get in the building and be a part of this thing. But really, really cool event. And again, kudos, more flowers for NYCEM. They kind of talked about the inception of the event years ago and how it has changed and pivoted quite a bit based on feedback, which for a large organization, right, that's usually one of the hardest things to do for large organizations is to move and pivot. It usually takes a long time. But they pivoted immediately when they realized initially it was set up to be kind of one-way information from New York City Emergency Management out to the public, which in and of itself is great, right? They're like, we have some experience, we're doing some things, we're putting some programs together. This is our opportunity to let you know what we're doing for the community. Cool, sounds great. That's valuable. They said very quickly, the people that showed up were like, yeah, that's good, but we, the community members, we've got some thoughts and ideas, and it'd be really great if you could find a way to listen to us so that we can help give the feedback and direct the thing. And immediately NYCEM, they were like, yeah, you're 100% right. This should be a two-way conversation. So we're going to create the space. We're going to create the venue. We're going to invite community partners. We're going to invite community members to collaborate. So now that's what the space is for. It's an opportunity for the community's voice to be heard, to talk directly to these New York City Emergency Management members, to really allow them to take a pulse of the community. What's happening right now? It is their ear to the street, ear to the ground. They are listening to the people, providing a space. They got us breakfast and lunch and snacks throughout the day. The ticket was free. So I think one of the biggest takeaways for me to our audience is we always stress here at Instinct Ready and Disaster Class, stay educated, stay prepared, stay equipped, right?
Right.
Put yourself in the room where these things are happening. If you're in the New York City area, any of the 5 boroughs, absolutely mark this on your calendar for next year when tickets are available. Buy one, get one immediately. You want to be there. I will try to never miss this event again. Personally, it was
And it's
just
free. You said, right?
and it's free. It's
That's
free.
great. Yeah.
You just got to get down there. Like, it was awesome. But if you're not in the New York area, right? Because a lot of our viewers are all over the world. Find your local Office of Emergency Management and see what they're providing. Now, I don't think everyone's going to be providing everything that New York City Emergency Management offers,
Yeah.
but they will be offering something at some time, somewhere, right? Like, there'll be something. It might be at the local fire department. It might be a bingo night, and it might be just a chance for you to meet some of your local heroes, your first responders. Do that. Get involved. Sign up for CERT, like all the things that we've been saying. So we thought it'd be a really cool idea for this episode for us to kind of go through the agenda of what was available, the content we were able to consume at this symposium, and then kind of talk a little bit about it from our perspective at Instinct Ready and Disaster Class, so that we can bounce some of these things off each other for the audience that we have here.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, so just curious about how many people were at this event.
I don't know how the total number. I forget how many tickets
crowd.
they had, but the room was packed, and they kept bringing in chairs. And then when we went to our breakout sessions, it was funny because they broke us into 2 different breakout sessions with 2 different tracks. You got to pick which track you wanted to be a part of. And the one that I chose, and we'll get into this, was about climate change and emergency management. We were in one of the side rooms, and like they came in, they're like, yeah, occupancy for this room is only 50, so we're gonna have to send some people back out to the main area. So in our little session, we had probably 50, 60 people. Really cool. And that presenter, the doctor there, he was really, really cool. He broke us into little groups of 5 or 6, and it was really collaborative. Really, really cool. Anyway,
Cool.
a lot of people. The room was packed.
That's great. So maybe who was all in attendance? What were some of the so you were interfacing with some NYCEM people,
Yeah.
but were there other organizations there, other groups? Like, talk about maybe a little bit of who was the intended audience and who was speaking?
Yeah, cool. So who was there from NYCEM? I think it was very well attended by NYCEM team members. One of the ladies who gave it wasn't the keynote, but she gave maybe the opening remarks. I guess she might be like one of the highest ranking members of NYCEM. Yeah, so she was there, and she kind of is like the top dog for the entire institution. They had probably, I can't even imagine how many NYCEM team members they had there. Probably 20 or more. Fully accessible. They were helping put the thing on. They were available. Some people
we've talked to before, right?
Yes, some familiar faces. Mr. Anthony Escoto with the CERT program, and they were getting ready for their big, I think it's tonight actually, their big graduation. They do
nice.
Yeah, so they have all new CERT members come in. They've gone through their training. They've passed all their courses, and they do a full-fledged graduation ceremony for them. I think the commissioner will be there for that. But Anthony was there. Miss Mariah Washington, who people loved her on our podcast episode. Dustin Reidner was there. So some faces that we've worked with and interfaced with before were there supporting this, and they were great. They're just walking around. They're available to chat. So they're just fully available to just sit down, have a conversation with, literally have a coffee with. Now, intended audience, great question. Local community members. So they're just local individuals that live in the community and have a vested interest because New York City Emergency Management technically is serving them, right? So they're the people being served by this organization. So you show up there if you want to have a voice, and they had in almost every single one of the speaking components, they had microphones set up. People were allowed to get up, ask questions, uh, talk directly to NYCEM leadership, get their questions answered. And a couple times the questions were, I don't want to say dicey, but some of the questions were a little interesting, and they needed a more personal touch. And I think it was Mariah. She was, I think she was the chairperson for the entire event. She was phenomenal in the way she managed some of that. She was like, "Hey, sir, that is a great question. It was about fire safety and fire code for New York City and understanding what they need to do." And again, I appreciate her. She just said, "Hey, I'm going to get your contact information, and that's something we, as an office, can officially follow up on, and I will personally reach back out to you to answer that question."
Yeah.
Like,
Great.
local groups, local businesses. We're going to talk a little bit about language access. That was a huge takeaway for us at Instinct Ready. So different groups that assist with language access. That one of the presenters, we'll get into it, was a library, and they provide Braille. Like if you've got emergency information that you need to get out in Braille, come to us. We'll assist you with that. Like crazy, really, really cool. So the intended was anybody living in the community, anybody that works in the community, anybody that has a small business in the community, anybody that has a vested interest in the community. That's who the target audience was. Really
That's
cool.
great.
Yeah, it
That's
was great
awesome.
interaction. Yeah.
And what a great takeaway too, just especially a lesson when we think about whether you're an emergency management agency or a business or a community organization, getting that feedback from your stakeholders.
That's it.
Because sometimes, we look at things and we look at the problem like, hey, this is, and we have these ideas, but getting those ideas, that feedback from the grassroots can really help shape things in a positive way. So I love how it's that event has now transitioned more from maybe just like, hey, this is what we're doing, to now, hey, how can we work together? How can we
Correct.
collaborate to work towards a common goal? And that's
Yep.
such a great takeaway.
Yep. From output, right, to intake. And it's, it's a great lesson. And they model it very, very well at NYCEM. Like the whole, like you could tell they're eager to get the feedback of the local community, so they
That's
can
great.
take that and they can then utilize that information and that feedback in their policy making.
Right. Yeah. Because if you and I remember when we talked with Mariah and just about community engagement and when people feel heard,
Oh,
right, and it makes such a big difference on getting that stakeholder buy-in. So huge.
100%.
So maybe let's maybe talk a little bit about what were maybe some of the key, looking at maybe the agenda. What were
Yeah.
some of the big topics of conversation, and then we're probably going to break down maybe some of these more in depth
Hmm.
in future episodes, and
Yeah.
hopefully maybe we can even have. I think the plan was to have some of those presenters maybe as guests on the podcast too, to talk about maybe some of their specific, the specific things that they were speaking about. But
Hmm.
what were some of the big topics of conversation?
The keynote was really cool. So the keynote was from the executive director and founder of an organization called Africana, and she explained her story. Her immigrant parents came from, I think they were in, I think she said Guinea, which is West Africa, and they migrated to New York. And at that time, there was no language access whatsoever to assist them. And if I'm not mistaken, something happened in their immigration process where there was, I think it was like an honest mistake or something was overlooked. But as a result, I think one of her parents was like detained
Mm.
away from the family for some time. And with kids, like that's traumatic. It's like, whoa, did we do something wrong? But again, there's no language. They didn't know what they did wrong. It
Right.
wasn't they were trying to circumvent. It wasn't that they were trying to do something illegal or subversive. There was no one to assist them with. And she mentioned like 4 local languages and dialects that they spoke. There was nothing for it. So she started this organization, Africana, specifically focused on language access throughout the immigration process in those specific languages, so she can help individuals avoid missteps like
Right.
that, unnecessary missteps, right? It's like,
Hmm.
as a child, to have your parent detained, it's like, did they do something wrong? Are we doing something wrong? No, we just don't understand. You know what I mean? And I didn't mention this to you, but she mentioned it too. And this is something that we're going to be looking at in instinct reading. She was like, yeah, it's really great when people drop off go bags for you, but when it's in a language that you can't understand and you don't know how to use it, what's the value?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, in this country, we have a lot of agencies and stuff that are proactive, where we think about disaster preparedness
Mm-hmm.
in this country, and we have a lot of resources,
Mm-hmm.
right? But in other places of the world, that whole concept of even what is a go bag, what's it for, what am I supposed to do with it? That's not a thing, right?
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah.
here's this thing. I'm like, I don't know what
Well,
this is.
and
What
it's
am I
in a
supposed to do
language that
with
you
it?
don't know.
Right. Yeah,
What do I
exactly.
do with that? You know what I mean? So she was really cool. I connected with her. I got to reach back out to her. She's one person actually I don't think I reached back out to, but yeah, we talked about getting her on the podcast. She was very, very excited about that opportunity just to spread that message. So that was really cool. Language access. And then yeah, there's the I'm probably going to get this name wrong. I don't remember exactly how they said it. The Andrew High School Braille and Talking Book Library. So they had a presentation for 20 minutes. They came up and they were just talking about what they do at their library, and the things that they provide. And again, they were the ones that were just like, yeah, if you've got some content that you need to get out and you need assistance with Braille, they're like, we're only going to charge you for the materials. We're not going to charge you for our time to do it.
Mm.
Really cool. Really cool to get that content out to individuals that need it, right?
Right.
Maybe even more so because they
Right.
may be limited in some way. Um, Boom, what a great resource to have access to. So again, I'm hoping to be able to, I made a contact with them. I'm hoping to be able to get them on. They can talk more in depth about what they do,
Yeah.
the services they provide. Again, I think it'd be a really great opportunity for a lot of individuals.
Hmm. That's such a huge need, right? Especially in communities where you have a big population of immigrant populations and
Yeah,
people who speak different languages, right? If you're producing community engagement materials and you're trying to help the communities to do certain things, well, if it's not provided in a language that they understand or they have limited proficiency, then you're not getting that stakeholder buy-in. You're not going to
correct.
be able to get them to do what you want them to do.
And ultimately, what does that mean in emergency? It means you may not be able to save their life. Where as if you had the language access, you know, overcome, if you overcame that boundary, that limitation, now maybe you could help save someone's life because they understood what to do. And I think you have an experience there with the complex that you live in. You were
Yeah.
talking about, yeah, yeah. I think that's a great. I think that'd be a great share for our
Y-
audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So where I live, like we have a huge population from Somalia. And in the city where I live, like a lot from Africa, parts of Micronesia, other Asian countries like Vietnam and Laos, and so it's funny because like they're living in some of like these apartment complexes and different communities, and everything is in English, which is that's dominant. Um, obviously that's the language we speak here,
Hmm.
but when certain things like simple things like I'm gonna like the dumpster, it's like don't do this, don't do that. Well, if it's only in English and they don't understand what those instructions mean, then they're they're
Yeah,
not gonna be following the
the
instructions, right? So
compliance can't then be
compliance,
expected.
right? Exactly, compliancy. So if you're looking to try to then it's being able to provide materials in that target language to be able to get that compliancy and that buy-in and helping them to understand,
Right.
hey, this is why. So I was thinking, because it is a challenge, um, you know, it's a challenge to try to do that. And then it's like, well, how do I even begin where do I start? Right.
Right.
And so the thing that I was thinking of, just a very simple thing. Well, it's like, typically there's someone within that community that does have, um, a English proficiency, right?
Hmm.
And so trying to find someone within that community who can maybe serve as like a translator
Yep.
and maybe even help, like, hey, I want to look at engaging this community a little better. I want to try to reach and helping speak with these people and provide materials. Could you help me
Right.
in helping translate here? Maybe here, this is what I'm trying to convey. Does it make sense? Would you be willing to take this and put it into the target language? And, most likely you're going to find someone who'd be willing to help do that to provide a service to their community.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a great point. It made me think of some things. My father passed away a couple of years ago, but he was a consultant, big brain. Love this man, and he had a couple terms that I think are valuable in this specific conversation set. He used the term cultural humility, right? Because it's not just necessarily cultural sensitivity, but the cultural humility is interesting because even when you're talking, and this is where NYCEM made the shift, and this is why I give them kudos, right? And it may be, hey, I'm a local agency and I'm trying to get information to your community. That's awesome. That's a great start. The next level would be, hey, since you help represent your community, can you help me understand your community better?
Right.
Before I even tell you what I think I need you to do, right? Here's that cultural humility. It's like, hey, is there something that you guys need specifically that I'm not providing? Right? Let's ask. That's the beauty of getting that stakeholder buy-in, and I think that's what NYCEM is modeling through this preparedness symposium. It's not even I'm going to take for granted. Well, here's what I need you to do. That may come later,
right?
And you may have that responsibility. But how much better is it to start the conversation? Hey, your community is valued here. We want you to have a voice. How's it going for you guys? How's your experience been? What can we do to assist that? Oh, and by the way, our goal is just to make you as safe as possible as emergency managers. So here are some of the things that we've used in our community that have worked. I don't know. Check it with your community. See, will that work? Right? Because I know in your specific experience, when we're talking about how to use the dumpster, okay, yeah, that's not necessarily life-threatening. But one of the conversations that we've had was, what if that was a poster for what to do in a tornado?
Exactly.
Right. Now, all of a sudden, that understanding, that buy-in is way more important because people's lives are at stake. And like for you moved from the East Coast to the Midwest. And I remember one of the first times we were on the phone, we were talking, you're like, dude, tornado sirens. That's not something we even experience in the East. Right. I don't know that that's something they even experience in Somalia. Like,
right.
Right. Like, I'm just like, like, what is that sound? And again, if you have language barrier there and people are telling you, oh, when you hear this, I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know what that sound is, but it doesn't sound good. Do I need to run toward it? Do I need to run away from it? Like, I need some information here. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of value in having that cultural humility, and having those conversations, so that we can all coexist in a much more efficient way, right? And get along.
Collaboration.
And ultimately impact lives. Yeah, that collab. And again, NYCEM is modeling that through this symposium, which was one of my biggest takeaways. I was like, man, for such a huge organization with such a weighty responsibility to put so much time, energy, resources, and effort into an event like this every year that is a growing event, specifically for the purpose to bring in feedback and utilize that for our policy making. Oh, what a great model.
Yeah. So language access. So what were some of the other big, I think you talked about climate.
Yeah, I was going to get right to that right now. Yeah. So this is the first breakout session opportunity. We had 2 tracks. So I went with the track of climate change and emergency management. And it was done really well. The doctor was amazing working with the Office of Mental Health. And he put a couple questions on the board that allowed us to, in groups, discuss some things. So some of the questions were like, what is your level of familiarity with emergency management and climate change? Right. Let's just start the conversation. Let's get people thinking about this. What are some barriers that the group faces in realizing some of these goals? Right. So what are some of the problems that we have to overcome? And then third, what are some strengths we can identify? And way to think about strengths was personal, community, and professional. So what message can we amplify to get that message out? And it was really cool to have the conversation. And Jason, it's conversations that we've had through some of our podcasts, climate change. And then it's funny, they even mention it. Like some people are like, oh, there's no such thing as climate change. And others realize, look, man, things like I think there's two events. I'll mention one and I'll leave the other one for you to mention, Jason, that we've seen the effects of climate change in. One was we talked with Rob Roberts. We talked about the response for Helene.
Right.
Bottom line, no, I don't think there were many emergency managers. I can't say none. Very few emergency managers had a mitigation plan for a hurricane hitting the mountains in the Carolinas.
Right.
The way the weather patterns have been in the United States over the past few decades, that wasn't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Wasn't something that had to be planned for. That was not a mitigation strategy that had been planned.
Right.
But here we are.
Right.
Because there's been a massive shift in weather patterns, and that shift in weather patterns is directly correlated to changes in climate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were some of the what were some of the other big takeaways from that?
Yeah. Again, communication, collaboration, planning. We even got into some of the topics that we've talked about here. We're going to talk about more. We're going to flush out how emergency management in and of itself is not a political job. It has no political leaning whatsoever to save lives and write a mitigation plan, to do a hazard vulnerability assessment, to write an EOP. It's just got nothing to do with politics. However, many times when we work for government agencies that are providing emergency management to its constituents, it is controlled by politicians. So it is heavily impacted by politics. And what's the biggest impact? Budget, right? The budget constraint. We hear about it now. There's been a change in government, and right now, sweeping through the United States, there are some changes that are happening because of politics, and it's affecting all of us, really. So that's one of the biggest things when it comes to climate change and any type of mitigation planning. You have to have the resources to be able to put people in a room and just talk and plan, live in the what if, and then write up mitigation plans for those things. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, as budgets are being restricted, you have less time to do that, which means your mitigation plans are less expansive, which means they're also less effective.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but it's just the way it goes. Let's see what.
So there was a one thing that kind of caught my mind, and we've talked about this topic before, but insurance.
Oh yeah, that's where I was going, man. You read my mind. Yeah, really, really cool panel with 3 individuals representing 3 different agencies in New York that all deal with insurance. And we got some pictures of their slides. We're gonna show you folks some of the questions and the conversations that were happening. But like some of the questions were like, what kinds of insurance is important for disaster preparedness recovery, right? And then they were discussing the difference between renters insurance, homeowners insurance, because whether you rent or are a renter, you've got different responsibilities, and for a couple bucks a month, you could change your entire existence if something happens.
Right.
So they really talked about the importance of mitigating those risks through insurance policies, and they gave some really specific verbiage that you could go to your insurance broker and have those conversations to make sure that you're fully protected. It was really cool, again, because it's for the target people. They had microphones set up. People could go and ask questions to these people. And some of the conversations were pretty interesting. They're like, we know there's certain buzzwords that if this is on your claim, you're going to get denied. And one of the guys was like, yeah, there are. There's certain things that if you write that in, it's going to get denied every single time. So you got to work with your broker to make sure they understand exactly what's happening so they can avoid some of those. And then they're walking around with business cards. I'm going to try to get one of those individuals on the podcast as well to just talk about that, some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to insurance. And they had a lot of testimonials and examples of individuals who didn't have renters insurance and what it cost them financially when something happened versus those who did for a couple bucks a month, maybe like $100, $300 a year, drastically changed everything for them. They had resources available that they were able to take advantage of just because they had those things. So really great discussion. There's also a pricing tool that's available on FEMA to give you estimates so that there's an idea, because a lot of these rates are standardized. But some of them they talked about are not standardized. They're not federally standardized, so it's based on your state, and your state dictates what happens. Yeah, really cool, interactive. There were a lot of questions from homeowners and business owners asking about what type of insurances they needed so that they can go back and tweak it with their broker when they got home. Again, what a great service that NYCEM was providing. And again, right, from an emergency management standpoint, that's great, right? The better educated, and that's why we say educate, prepare, and equip, right? The better educated the constituents are, the has a direct correlation to how resilient that community is, right? Because if everyone is prepared and everyone in advance has done these things and everyone has their risks mitigated, when an event happens, that entire community can get back on their feet so much faster.
Right. Absolutely. Very cool. So it sounds like it was a pretty jam-packed event.
It really was. It was awesome though. Like it was a great event. I think it started at like 9 a.m. and it went till 3 p.m. It's a full day. And it was just great to collaborate. There were a ton of sessions where we were able to just, and then we were encouraged to talk to the people at our table, meet somebody new. Oh, that was one of the things I think we're going to talk about now, the little giveaway.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Talk about that.
So, everyone got the bag for free, and then your name badge and everything like that. And it was good for whatever handouts you wanted to grab. But then Mariah was really awesome because she really wanted to facilitate learning and growth, right, through this collaboration space. So she had on the board a couple things that we could do in order to gain a free giveaway. And one of the things was like meet at least 2 or 3 CERT members, find out what district they serve and get their first and last name. Go up to Mariah. You will have earned the extra giveaway. Meet someone who speaks 3 languages or more. Go up to Mariah, tell them what languages they speak, where they are, how you guys met, what your conversations were. So she was really providing an opportunity to do some interactive things. So of course I was like, yo, I got to get in there. I got to get in there and see what's going on with this. And this is a really, really nice giveaway that we are going to make available for our audience. And it came packed with a lot of goodies. And again, from an emergency preparedness standpoint, this is great. Like body wipes, notebook, there were masks in there. You got to have your poncho. I like this from a medical standpoint. Some bandages, some things you can do to treat some cuts and scrapes. One of the cool things they had in there, radio, pocket radio for communications. Nice. Yeah, you can stay connected. Mylar, you know what I mean? Another hand sanitizer. Really great little giveaway. Totally free. Yes. And all you had to do was get outside your comfort zone a little bit, talk to someone that was next to you. And that was the other thing Mariah did. She managed the space really well. Before the lunch break, she was like, okay, I'm gonna let you guys know now because I know people need some setup and they need some time to think about it. Don't get too comfortable where you're sitting because after lunch, I'm gonna ask you over to change tables. So after lunch, you change tables, you get to meet a whole new set of people. And again, the idea was to facilitate collaboration. So they've done this for years now. They're very good at it. Managed the audience in a spectacular way. Great event, top to bottom.
Very cool.
Highly recommended. If you're in the New York area, Community Preparedness Symposium, look it up. Give you a breakfast and a lunch and snacks and giveaways and an opportunity to ask your questions and let your voice be heard.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, Wesley, I think they have some recordings from these events, even from past events, on their YouTube channel.
Yep.
So we'll tag the NYCEM YouTube channel too, so you can maybe go if you want to check out some of these events and get some ideas, maybe even for your own jurisdiction and where you live. Maybe there's some takeaways and some things 100% you can implement.
100%. And they had all the cameras there, so I'm sure at some point in time, it's going to be up on their website from this symposium. And there's going to be snippets, some of the things that we've discussed here. So please take advantage of these things. Stay connected, folks.
Very cool. So what's a takeaway or maybe a call to action that our listeners can do in relation to this event, Wesley, other than if they're in the New York area?
Yeah, so if you're in the New York area, and the ask is the same for everybody,
Yeah.
we talk about it. Stay educated, stay prepared, stay equipped. That's the mindset that we're trying to assist you guys with here at DisasterClass and Instinct Ready. So a huge component of that, be at this event. This event educated me. There was stuff I learned that I simply did not know prior to going to this event. And I guarantee you every single time I go, I'm going to pick up something else that I didn't know. So my education level is increasing. How about my preparedness level, right? We talk about preparedness as a mindset. The more you do these events, the more you're prepared. Like I signed up for the event. I'm getting the emails for the event. I'm thinking about it. I'm driving down to Manhattan. Like I'm like, okay, I'm in that mindset. And now after meeting the folks that I have, the mindset continues, right?
Yeah.
And then stay equipped. It's an opportunity to literally get equipped with some things that if you didn't, you didn't have them before, now you do. So you can utilize these things. So that's it. Stay educated, stay prepared, stay equipped.
Yeah.
Get involved at your local community level. If you're New York City, definitely reach out for this specific event. If you're outside of the New York City area, look into what your Office of Emergency Management is doing, because I'm sure they're doing something. And then at the very least, sign up for CERT. Get involved. The training is robust.
And let us know what events you have in your area, because we're curious to see what different jurisdictions are doing and different agencies. So we want to see what's going on in other parts of the country and in the world too. We've had we were just corresponding a little bit with one of our listeners who's in I think the UK, and after our episode with Arthur Simsel, he was telling us about some of the exercises and things that they were doing in the UK. So hopefully we'll be able to maybe even talk with him a little bit more, see about even other parts of the world, other countries, what's going on and different things that are being implemented. So we're always looking to see what else and what we can learn, right? Because we're all learning, all of us, all the time. So it's emergency management is a big collaboration. So we're all in this together. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Cool. Well, we'll expand on some of these individual topics a little more in future episodes. We're going to be doing a deep dive into language access, the importance of that. We're probably going to revisit insurance. It's been a while since we've talked about that topic, so we'll do a deep dive into that and some of these other ones as well. Well, Wesley, as always, there's homework.
Yeah, there's homework on the chalkboard, folks. We hope you can subscribe, stay connected. First of all, watch the episode, send it to some friends, sign up for alerts so that, you'll know when we drop a new episode. So you can be there for that. Share it with your friends, and then please comment, right? Like Jason said, we'd love to hear what you're doing in your jurisdiction. Maybe you're one that's responsible for creating these type of events, and maybe you're a community member that would love to go to this type of event. Either way, let's have that conversation. We love the feedback that we're getting. So keep up the good work. We appreciate you guys. And you're the reason we put this content out.
Yeah. And as always, if you have a question, disaster tip, whatever you want to engage with us, send us the email at disasterclass@instinctready.com or drop us a message on our social media accounts. And as always, doing so will put you in a running to be featured on the show and win some cool prizes. So thank you all so much for tuning in to Disaster Class. Stay educated.
Stay prepared.
Stay equipped.
All right, guys. Get out of here. See you next time.
This episode of Disaster Class was sponsored in part by Sawyer Products, Blue Lotus Virtual Services, and EM Disaster Gaming by Cemental Industries. This episode was hosted by Jason Perez and Wesley Long. Disaster Class is directed, produced, and edited by Jason Perez. Copyright 2025, Instinct Ready Incorporated. All rights reserved.